Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sabta. Hi everyone. Is everybody there? We have the number of attendees counting at 47 right now. 48, 50. We are expecting about 100 over attendees for today's afternoon session. So let us see how many are going to be here with us this afternoon. Today is our sixth webinar session on circular economy. The theme is circular economy with various topics with regards to all kinds of businesses and all sectors of industries involved. With us today is a very prominent speaker, Yang Berbahagia Prof. Dato Engineer Dr. Abu Bakar Jaafar, who is very well known internationally as well as locally. I will introduce him to you. Later. But let me introduce the topics for today's webinar session. It's going to be on the transformation of waste management services into materials and energy industries. The webinar session today is brought by the Sustainable Unit of NPC, which was established on 2nd of January 2020, and it is a new unit established under the Productivity Competitiveness Development Division of NPC. Now, among others, the sustainability unit functions as to carry out secondary research for Malaysia's circular economy, that is to CE landscape towards increasing productivity at industry level, provides understanding and exposure to the importance of the concept of CE and emphasize on sustainable use of resources, to promote the concept of CE through strategic cooperation with the public, private, academia, and industries association, establish a sustainable circular economy ecosystem to increase productivity within the industries. Last but not least, to carry out benchmarking and knowledge sharing on CE programs towards sustainability locally and overseas. So they have handfuls of responsibility to be carried out. But anyway, with the session today, I'm going to read to you a bit of a little house rules for us to conduct the session this afternoon. There will be session on question and answer as we go along. Whether you like to post your questions in the chat box or the question box, or you might also want to raise your hand through the palm icon to speak directly to us. The admin will unmute you for the oral session. Okay. If you have any technical glitches, please let the administrator know. Okay. So my name is Fauzia Hanum. I will be your moderator this afternoon. Welcome again to all of you. Welcome again if there are students from University Putra Malaysia, and also if there are students from Taylor's College, and everyone else who are here this afternoon. Thank you for taking your time with us. Hopefully, we hope that with these sessions, it will enhance our understanding in conducting circular economies in Malaysia. Now, without further ado, let me just introduce the speakers this afternoon. Now, currently, Dato is the professor in the UTM Perdana Center, Razak Faculty of Technology and Informatics. Dato is also a fellow researcher in UTM Ocean Thermal Energy Center. And also, Dato is currently the chairman of the Malaysian Green Technology and Climate Change Center. Now, Dato has served a lot in corporate as well as in the public sector. Among others, he is nominated and elected member of UN UNCLOS in New York. Senior Processing Controller Kumpulan Guthrie Berhad. He's also the Director General, Department of Environment Malaysia, as well as the Deputy DG before moving up the ladder. He's also previously as a staff engineer in US EPA Office of R&D Industrial Environmental Research. He's also the inspector for the Factories and Machinery, Department of Factories and Machinery, which is now known as DOSH. Dato is also a award recipient, among others. In 2020, he received the Honorary Doctorate in Science, University of Newcastle. He's also the Tokoh Alumni Sekolah Alam Shah, Honorary Doctorate in Science in Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, Anugerah Perkhidmatan Cemerlang Universiti Teknologi Malaysia, Anugerah Bukit Kafir Cemerlang Sempena Melaka 750 tahun, Anugerah Tokoh Profesional. And in 2011, Dato is the Convocation Medal of the University of Newcastle, Australia. So with that, Dato, let us hear your views and thought on the topics that is chosen: transformation of waste management services into material and energy. Please, Dato.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Dr. Fauzia, for your kind introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Good afternoon to one and all. Thank you for joining. And at the outset, I would like to thank the Malaysian Productivity Corporation for having invited me to and MPC, by the way, is not new to me because I was involved in the early part of my career at the National Productivity Center at the time. They call it in 1973 on industrial safety. So I'm very happy to come back to the same organization after all these years. So the topic of my presentation actually on the transformation of the waste management services to waste, basically recycling industries on energy and materials. And this topic falls under the general concept now is called circular economy. So in order to facilitate my presentation this afternoon, I would like to go through the outline of my presentation. After a quick introduction, I would like to propose what we should be looking at, and then I want to share with you what a benefit sure proposal could be a success, and then how to measure the success in terms of balanced scorecard, and I'll quickly elaborate in what way this topic will fall under the circular economy concept. And I will conclude by stating that the transformation that I mean here is how to save public expenditure, taxpayers' money. At the moment, we are spending about 4 billion ringgit a year and more, but instead of spending this money, could transform the whole sector into energy and material industry, and perhaps it could generate annual growth, annual income about 2 billion a year. So my next slide. Okay, this is a statement. Normally, in my normal talk, I would have asked the audience to answer my first questions. What year this statement was released by the government of Malaysia? Okay, you have the answer, keep to yourself. Then this statement basically talking about the solid waste collection, in a way quite satisfactory, but we have a lot of problems relating to disposal. And secondly, I think the government is of the view that the disposal of solid waste still is a problem, like in many countries. And I think the government always been looking forward to have an organized program in this direction. So I think my talk this morning is really to respond to this statement, how we can get ourselves organized. And the main problem, of course, the local authorities continue to face personal, financial resources, and knowledge of the effects of health, of the solid waste rubbish to health. So the next slide, okay, you have in mind what year this statement was released by the government, and the next slide will give you the answer. Right? Next slide, please.
Next is on the rate of recycling, a review.
The next slide. Why it takes a long time to pop up? It goes to which satellite? Yeah.
Malaysian satellite.
Normally quite fast.
Yeah. It's up there already. The rate of recycling, a review in Malaysia.
No, this is not this is the sixth slide. Should be the, I think they go to the next slide, right? The next slide, we tell you, the next slide, yeah, this is slide 7. Can you go back? This is slide 6. What happened to slide 3 and 4 and 5?
Slide 3 is on the statement.
Okay, right. Okay, this is the slide I was, okay. I'm not sure how many of you, okay, can you go back to the fifth slide, the fifth slide, number 5, slide number 5, the next one. Okay, yeah. I wonder how many of you got the right answer. This statement was issued by government in 1971, right? So if you got right answer,
it's in 1971, right?
Yeah, long time ago. Many of you not yet born.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes. And this statement is still valid till today, right? That means we haven't really solved the problem. That's what it means.
If they solve this, have partly solved it.
Well, still not satisfactory, right? Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Next. I mean, the chair should control the slide, you know. I don't know who's controlling the slide. Huh?
That's okay. We have to be a little bit patient then.
Yeah. All right. Okay. One way to know whether you are doing well or not, just to see the one good parameter is the rate of recycling. The official estimate of 5%, unofficial estimate is
15 to 20%.
Yeah, this is unofficial, but this data back in 2006. Also, my former student, Dr. Thang, he was at UPM, my student at UPM, and also according to Alam Flora, and the target is 22%. So I just got the confirmation from Dr. Dr. Fauzi, the former deputy CEO of the Solid Waste Corporation.
Right.
Dr. Fauzi. So he just confirmed to me this morning, 12%. So we short of the target. Anyway, he will be the next speaker, so he can elaborate why we falling short. Right?
Okay, then.
Right. So that actually we are falling target. So because of that, I think it's worth to look at my proposal, how to improve the current situation. Right. Okay. Next slide. target.
Next one is, yeah.
Okay,
The
this is the slide.
existence.
Yes. Why we are falling short of the what
Target.
is
Yes.
the absence of comprehensive sets of environmental economic policy instrument and supported by effective fiscal and regulatory measures. So I think to date we have yet to introduce the right economic policy instrument. So at this seminar, I'm going to propose you what ought to be the economic policy instrument to be in place, right? Next. Okay, the proposition actually is a comprehensive set proposition. The first measure, I would argue, I would say, has already been introduced by the government. That means the moment you generate the waste, you have to segregate them, separate.
Yeah, it is in the Public Cleansing Act, yes.
Yeah, to some extent it has worked, but the problem is after you have segregated them, and when the trucks come, they just mix them up again, and they just dispose them, right? And if you really segregate them well, then our recycling rate of recycling would have been higher. So that's the first problem. Second, this is the economic policy instrument that I was talking about, and what I would like to propose. The acronym I use, ICP, stands for Indifferent Consumers Pay Principle, meaning to say, if you don't recycle, you have to pay certain penalty like a levy, and all these years, the government, as stated in the 5-year Malaysia plans, they introduced the PPP, Polluters Pay Principle, but this principle doesn't apply in Malaysia, for instance, and many developing countries. I will explain why. And the third,
fiscal measures.
They should be involved in the recycling of taking away this hazardous waste from households, focusing on the industrial waste. But I think high time for them to come in to help, sorting out the generation and collection of this hazardous waste, household hazardous waste. And the reason why I say it must have fiscal measures, I think, to give people incentives. They should be paid a bit for having sorted out this hazardous waste. But my main focus this afternoon is to really introduce this new economic policy instrument in different consumers pay principle. So next slide.
Doctor, can we take there is a hand raised just now. Can the administrator show us who is
yeah, is it can we take
a question?
Can you take note the question that we answer at the end?
Yeah. No. Okay, let's proceed, Doctor.
Yeah. The next one is reviews of the existing regulation. I think we are very familiar with this. I think no laws will be effective without the regulations. I think the regulations that we are all been waiting for is already been introduced. These are waste segregation and separation source. So in a way, the legal measures to me is adequate at the moment. But what is lacking, the economic policy part. Okay, next. Next. Okay, this is how we should look at in terms of paradigm shift. The left is a current practice, more waste to be disposed of, very little recovered or recycled, right? I think what we should be aiming on the right, where more materials, more waste to be reused, to recover, to be recycled, collected, and then once it's collected, not to be disposed of at landfills, but rather to go to repository, not landfills.
Repository instead of disposal.
Repository, like a store, So once the material can attract some economic values, then we should be able to bring them out. So that's the proposition. So nothing is wasted. This is in line with the concept of circular economy. Yeah. Right. Next. Next.
Policy
Okay,
intervention.
this is what I would like to propose. The first bullet is the most important of all. Without the first bullet, the rest will not fall into place. So the proposal is that when you buy new materials, new goods, then after you use the goods, and then the container, for instance, has to be returned, right? If you don't, then you have to pay a certain amount, you know, levy, some sort of levy. Say, for instance, you to buy, and once you finish drinking the mineral water, to be recycled. And then once you recycle, you can be given some incentives. For instance, you'll be given some sort of credit points. Nowadays, there are so many forms of credit points. When you buy new goods, normally the retailers give you some credit points, similar system, right? And when you buy new goods, you have to redeem your credit points. If you don't have these credit points, then you have to pay a certain amount. So the quantum to government to decide, but this is just a concept. Okay, once these materials are recycled, all sorted out or nicely, then what we do with this material, and this is where we promote the industries to, when they manufacture new goods, they have to, the new goods have to contain some degree of recycled materials. You know, in a way, it's being done. You know, like newspapers, right? When they manufacture newspapers, yeah, and they have to declare this. This is one example. Now, if this
paper, they a lot of use this type of approach.
Yeah, we can see this, and then they have a labeling to say, okay, this contains certain recycled products, right? Then the next one, if you cannot recycle anymore, and these materials have high energy values, then they should be converted into energy, right? Energy means not only electricity. If there is no takers for electricity, you can convert this excess power to hydrogen fuel, and hydrogen fuel is going to be a future energy carrier in this century. Now, once you have these three bullets in place, the next question is who's supposed to do it, right? Of course, we have the option, government, corporatization, things like that. But I think what I'm proposing is that we should establish this environmental, non-profit, non-private organization. You know, they don't make profit. I will explain to you what you mean by non-private. And this is registered as a company under register with the commission of the companies, right? Not under registrar of society and all its strategic partners. So this is the most important slide that really I want to push forward, right? The rest is just an elaboration of this proposal. Next. Next.
It's a comparative approach by countries, industries, and consumers.
Okay, why we have to introduce new economic principle? So that's how we look at this. Industries, when they pollute, we call them polluters. And normally for industries, I think throughout the world, including Malaysia, we have applied this polluters pay principle. That means the more you generate the waste,
the more you have to pay.
Pay principle or take back policy. That means you buy a bottle of Coca-Cola, you know, then you put a deposit, right? Then when you buy a new bottle, then you have to, you know, either take back your deposit or you can return your bottle to get your deposit. So this works very well for the industries, but it doesn't quite work very well in our case. So we have to look at the consumers, means you and I. Of course, in Singapore, if you know, throw your rubbish, the enforcement is so strict, so you cannot afford.
Exactly.
Right? Because Singapore, yeah, is clean because of the strict enforcement, right? But some or other, I mean, Malaysia enforcement doesn't quite work, right? So you have to think about, you know, other things. So that's why I think I like to propose this consumers, how to discipline ourselves, you know. So
Yes.
to discipline ourselves, if you do not recycle, you pay. It's not government choice, it's your choice, our choice. So that's the what principle that I'm pushing here now. Okay, next slide.
If you have
Next.
more waste at home, then you have to pay more by kilos.
No, that one just polluters pay. But in this case, you don't have to pay because you recycle, you know, so you don't have to pay a
Okay.
cent. Yeah, but in
Alright.
fact, yeah, by right, those things got values, so it should be, you know, I will explain what the whole concept later on. Yeah, but by right, you shouldn't pay anything. Yeah. Next slide. Next slide, please.
Yeah. Next slide is on the non-applicability of polluters pays principle. Where you look at the graph between quarters, low income, middle income. Yes, that's it. The high income group.
Okay, this graph to explain why the polluters pay principle cannot work in Malaysia. This survey result of the survey done by Petaling Jaya Municipal Council published many years ago, 30 years ago, and still valid. If you were to plot the amount of waste generated per household, and the x-axis is the income level, right? Low income, middle income, and high income. You see the poor generate as much waste as the rich. The middle income do not. So meaning to say, if you to impose polluters pay principle, the poor will be paying as much as the rich. So that's not fair, right? And this graph is not typical of many countries. And in many countries, the richer you are, the more waste you generate, right? Somehow or other, it's not the same in Malaysia. And this statistics received a lot of foreign researchers from Denmark in particular, and they repeated this survey and they come up with the same result, you know. So they asked me why this is so. I said very simple to explain. For instance, if you want to make curry, you buy coconut if you are poor, and coconut you generate a lot of perishable waste, right? Now, if you are a well-income group, you don't buy coconut, but you buy coconut milk from a supermarket contained in the carton, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but okay, then middle income, most of you don't cook at home, right? You all tap out, you know, so you don't generate much waste from your house. So that explains why the low generation of waste among the middle income. So that explains the result. Okay, the next.
Yeah.
Okay. The former chief secretary to the government a very long time ago, 1993. So he asked me this question. What's the difference between waste and resource? So the answer is no difference, except in value. When the waste has value, it becomes a resource. And if this material has no value at all, it becomes a waste, right? As simple as that. So the challenge to us now, how to give value to materials that people don't want. You see that there's not many people throwing out aluminum cans, for instance, or people don't throw out in the street newspapers, because those two things have values in the market. You don't see them, but you see people throwing pet bottle bottles. Because so the challenge here now is how to give value to the pet water bottles. So the way to value to this, that you have to impose the policy that I was saying earlier. You have to buy a new bottle, new mineral water bottle, you have to return that one, or you recycle. How you give value to things that you want to throw. Okay, right. So that's the simple concept. Next.
Your proposed scheme.
This is a scheme to explain everything. So the focus is between you and I. So we two, all of us are consumers here. Now we want to purchase new goods, right? First thing they will ask, do you have redeem? Do you have credit points?
Yeah.
And how you get the credit points? By returning those items to recyclers. We have so many recycling centers, right? And you get the credit points. Okay. If not, you have to pay certain levy. Now this levy will go into this proposed organization. I call it environmental non-profit, non-private organization, and they report to the government. And grant, R&D, policy studies, education, training, awareness, and investment. Now, once you have collected the materials, what you do with them? So here I propose that these materials, we call them recyclables, that should be floated and introduced in the commodity, our commodity exchange, just like rubber, oil palm, other stuff, pepper. And those industries want to gain access to the material, they have to pay a bit, the price is very transparent. So then only the industries can really get access to the material. Otherwise, many industries, they would like to recycle, they would like to manufacture new goods containing recyclable, but they cannot gain access in volume, and all these material are contaminated. This material will settle out, and that will encourage our manufacturers to make use of materials. And then if those materials no longer can be used, then they can convert this material, especially those if no takers from TMB, they can even convert this electricity to hydrogen fuel, right? And then of course, I was saying earlier, the manufacturers also will make full use of these materials. So that will complete the whole circle. Huh? And of course, here I put landfill operator, but I was saying earlier, the idea is under the concept of circular economy, we should call this a material repository, not landfills, right? Yeah. So the operator the operator is the one responsible to make sure the materials are well sorted out, and one there is a demand in the commodity I think that's where the concept of circular economy different from the 3 R's. We use recovery and reduce, recovery, and recycle, right? Okay, next. Next. Okay, then this is just the details, how you implement this. Now, the first bullet is our recycling bins at the moment, they're all not very smart, right? They're all dummy and dumb, right? So now we equip these recycling bins with all smart sensors, smart like credit pointing, like a touch and go thing, right? The moment you deposit plastic bottle into plastic bin, you can earn the credit points to your smart card, right? And with IC is one way to introduce who has been disposing what. There's one system to control people stealing things and putting in the bins to collect the credit points. So there's one control there. I think this is now we're going for IR, 4.0. I don't see why we cannot have it. Of course, that will encourage investment, build industry facilities to recover and store these collected materials. And then the industry will start produce new goods containing recycled materials. And those materials that cannot be burned anymore or used anymore, they will burn this to generate energy. And if nobody wanted the electricity, then convert this electricity to hydrogen fuel. So that's the implementation step need to be undertaken. Next. Okay, this is the organization. Remember, I was proposing this environmental, non-profit, non-private organization. and they are answerable to this. They manage the trust fund where the levies are collected, and this will be put under board of trustees that form the foundation, and these are all answerable to the government. And here I mentioned all the relevant ministries. I have yet to update. Now MASTEC.
Yeah, they have
On the environment,
diversified. Yes, the three
water.
ministries.
So, but actually the main ministry actually here means here local government and housing, right? But the rest
They are
are,
dealing with the solid waste.
yeah,
Correct.
they are the
Correct.
key ministry for rubbish. Yeah, right.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Oh,
And we
that's
have the
your,
agencies called
yeah.
the
Pardon?
Jabatan Sisa Pekerja. We
Next.
have the agency called the Jabatan Sisa Pekerja at federal level.
Hello. Next.
It is the institutional arrangement.
These all the role of various ministries. I think local authorities they have already imposed this regulation. Waste must be sorted out, but I think the follow through not very good, right? So we need to improve that. The reason why the follow through right now because there's no demand for things that they generate. And then Ministry of Finance.
Yes.
They should put this Malaysian Recyclable Exchange, maybe put under the Commodity Exchange. MITI industries, they should promote industries to recycle all these materials collected. And then SIRIM, they give a product eco-labeling. Then Ministry of Environment and Water, they should be able to get credit points, under carbon credit, right? And then this Ministry of Energy, KETSA, they call it. They should give a very attractive feed-in tariff for the power, if not for hydrogen. And then the trust fund for sorted household hazardous waste for DOE to manage, right? So you take various ministries to get together to make the whole things work, And so far, I'm not sure whether any prime minister or any deputy prime minister managed to pull everybody together on board on this, right? Unfortunately, in Malaysia, we don't have coordinating ministers,
All right. But I think that we are doing all these things that you mentioned. It's just that it's not coordinated in some ways.
Yes.
You see.
Yeah.
So,
actually, Prime Minister too busy, Deputy Prime Minister too busy because they have their own portfolios. I think why you need, then actually if a leading minister to handle this, I'm not sure whether other ministers will cooperate on this. Anyway, we can discuss that later. Okay, this is what it ought to be. Next. Okay, this is what I try to explain. I think many people are familiar with NGO, right? NGO normally registered with Registrar of Society. Of course, private entities, their main aim to make profit, to protect private interests. And I think the waste is really beyond the profit. They cannot make money out of them. Otherwise, the problem would have been solved. And then to extend their services in the way in Malaysia, I'm happy to see many NGOs very, very active in recycling, but there's a limit how far they can do, right? So that's very unfortunate. But the moment you put the whole scheme in place, we can really mobilize the NGOs in Malaysia. I think there'll be a big instrument. But in order to do whatever we propose to do, we need to establish this NPO. NPO registered with the commissioner of company. But in the early days, they call registrar of company, right? This is just like a mirror image of the private sector. Exactly behave like private sector, except their objective to promote public goods and services. Private sector to make profit and to protect private interests. Here, to promote public goods and services. I think waste comes under this. So I think in Malaysia, we don't seem to promote this kind of organization. And I think waste management is one form of.
Dato, is there a model internationally that we can look into
Yes, yes,
The one that you're proposing now. In
yes.
which country?
In in US, many top universities, right, run by this kind of organization, education. You know what I mean? That's the best
Oh,
example. Yeah.
okay.
And then Board of Chicago, in a way, Board of Trade of Chicago, they promote these recyclables. They've been doing this in 1995, right? So I think in Malaysia, this will be the best form of institution, really, in Malaysia. But other existing institutions can still be in place. We don't take over from their functions. Solid Waste Corporation will be there, the PSN will still be there, the concessionaires still be there. But this body will strengthen, will pull everybody together, Uh, that's what I mean. We don't will pull them together, and then only you can solve these problems once for all, right? Okay, next. Okay, then the structure of this, whoever interested in this, the management, because they have the, all the passion and everything, they can own 51% and 5 to 14% given to government. And the strategic partners, that means people involved in waste recycling, waste logistics, the smart recycling bins, EPC, they own, some percentage, and that kind of level of investment required. And then also R&D universities, they should come in also. Right. So that's my proposal, the structure of this new entity. Next.
It must be a pool of resources, different
Next.
expertise, and all that has to come into this one umbrella, right? This is the revenue model.
Okay, the moment our waste uncollected is a lot of them. Actually, from my last estimate, about 60% collected. Maybe Dr. Fauzi can update me on this. Uh, the rest still littered about, dump here and there. And actually, what we're tackling here, those waste that yet to be collected, right? Then we can estimate the amount of levies that we can collect in the revenue over the years. So if the more people recycle this, less waste what to be thrown about, and you can generate the revenue. Right? This is just a quick estimate about amount of waste that can be revenue can be generated by this organization that I proposed here. The teams, all the players together. That's the main purpose. Next. Next. Okay, this is just to capture everything. So, but what I was saying in terms of concept, waste is equal to resource, and the moment you inject value into the waste, it becomes a resource. So that's the principle in different consumers pay principle. If you don't recycle, you pay. If you recycle, you don't pay, right? And consumers buy new goods must return the old ones. That means you may argue very difficult to bring all the old stuff to the stores, but actually you have recycling centers where you can drop them there and collect your credit points, right? And the effect consumers will return the old item. So these materials in the street or in the drain somehow post sold with yes value, right? And in practice, as I was saying earlier, this is already promoted by regulation. All waste generated has been sorted out, dry and wet. The wet ones, I think if you are landed property owners, you can convert them to compost, right? For those who live in apartment blocks, they have community composting centers. Nowadays, they can even introduce black soldier flies. They can eat up all these perishable waste, right? into compost fertilizer. So we got the solution for that. We want to use for recycling. Okay, next. Next. Okay, I don't have to really belabor on this point. Actually, the benefit of this new scheme, I think everybody will benefit from this. Households, they can, very make full use of this scheme, very well. The industries now can gain access to recycled materials. They promote new business, new commerce. The power also get additional source of additional source of electricity, waste to energy. I think the potential can be as high as 600 megawatts. And landfill operator, they still can operate their landfill, but not as to dump the waste, bury the waste, but rather, to be like a repository, right? And waste to energy plant can also be built around there. The technology, of course, I was saying earlier, we need to introduce a lot of smart, smart tech, smart technologies, smart standards. The society will benefit. And last but not least, of course, our environment is free of all this rubbish. Yeah. Next.
That means the businesses sector has to change their business model now.
No, they wanted to. You talk to all industries, they want to recycle, but they cannot gain access to the materials. You know what I mean? All materials, all contaminated, all contaminated, all mixed, and then they have to do the cleaning. No way they can do the cleaning. I mean, they cannot gain access to the volume, right? Because the whole centralized, not because the industries do not want. They've been wanting this. They want to exercise a producer's responsibility. They've been around under consumption, but they cannot. Cannot blame the industries. Yeah, but you might understand what are the limitations now. And then waste, you mix them up. Not easy to sort them out. No technology can sort waste because of different gravity. Sorting only works if you want to sort material of the same gravity. Many people.
So it still takes exhaust to do the segregations as well as cleaning up in terms of.
Many people can segregate this in the whole world. No technology has been developed to segregate the waste. That's why they just go for incineration, right? Yeah. Which country has a good technology to sort this material? No. Go for incineration, they burn everything. Yes. So that's why the regulations, sorting at source is very important first step, to realize the yeah. Without that, nothing will work. Nothing will work. Yeah. So I'm very happy the regulation already in place. But what we need now to follow through. Yeah. Right. Next. Next.
The success factors, yes.
Yeah, okay. This is just a repeat in different, So to me, the first one is very important. I think this way the government has to make this policy. If without this principle, you just forget the rest. The rest will not happen, right? Even how much promotion you give, to industries, how much promotion you give to generate energy, electricity from the waste, it won't work. Till today, you see, there's no single waste recovery or waste conversion or waste into power, right, in the country. Yeah, even the small incinerator also fail miserably, so nothing works.
A lot.
Yeah. Okay. Next. So I'm coming towards the end, and of course, in terms of the integration, very important. These are all the smart things. So meaning you drop plastic, the sensor can recognize this plastic, right? Then give you credit point. If you throw rubber, they won't recognize it, you won't get credit point. That will discipline people.
This needs technology, yes.
Yeah, that's a technology. Material classification software, they all standard. My card very important because we don't want Bangladeshis or Indonesians stealing shoes or from the surau and you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
downside. It has to be Malaysian, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now.
Yes.
Just like nowadays under PKP now, under MCO, you walk into any restaurant,
Yes.
you have to register yourself so that we can trace you, right? So we can trace you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very important. And then this
So the
collection
same
center.
concept and principle here.
Yeah, exactly. And then this collection centers, you see them everywhere, right? Supermarket, gas station, retail, all everywhere. But except those bins are dumb bins, you know what I mean? No rojak bins, everything in there. There's
Misuse of it.
Pardon? Yeah. So you
Misuse
just
of the beans.
yeah, misuse, abuse. So you need to have the first one, you know, installed, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
Public support and participation.
Yeah, of course. If without the public support, then it won't work. You know, most important, whether the public like you and I and the maid, you know, you had the maid that sort this one out. If you don't sort this out, it won't work. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
then if you sort them out, even the rubbish, the truck drive, the rubbish trucks do not come to your house, it doesn't matter because your wet one already sorted out. Maybe you have a composter, right? You know what I mean? Nowadays, the trucks have to come to your house every other day, and that costs a lot of money, right?
Collect
So that
rubbish.
of course, increase public awareness. Once the public understand this, I think they will get the full support, right?
Yeah.
I think that's
To
a
start
logical.
with is the most difficult part, Dato. To start with.
Yeah, that's to start the policy by government. So you cannot education alone. It may not work.
It has to be
The
education, it has to be policies in place,
Yeah,
infrastructure.
those are the necessary, but you cannot hope for the education to change everything. No, you must show to them what ought to be done. What is the leadership? I still hear my Japanese friends who came to KL, you know, the wives almost got heart attacks because they sorted out their material and then they peek them through the windows. All their whatever they sorted out, they dump into the trucks, the back of the truck, all mixed again, you know. So see, right? Yeah. So Japanese wives almost got heart attacks. Yeah. Right. Next.
So we are still far from the Japanese.
Next. Yeah. Next. Sorry, why is the slide so slow?
It's on the balance scorecard.
Yeah. Okay. At the end of the day, how you measure the success? So this is my simple measure of the success, right? How many percent of the waste you generate can be collected and sorted out, you know? And then your expenditure per ton of rubbish. But right, theoretically, it should go down, right? And then the most important target is actually our environment is free from litters, right? Rubbish, right? High degree of cleanliness, right? You walk about, you don't see a piece of litter. And then high rate of recycling, right? So, as I was saying the other day, maybe this KPI should be given to every young Brahman, you know, right? To measure their performance within the community. This is a good KPI for young Brahman. If they don't, if their community, if their constituency cannot meet up to this KPI, then he or she shouldn't deserve to be nominated for the next election. You know, that'd be very good, right? Yeah, I would say I would recommend to the government this KPI is not given to the Department of Urusan Sampah Sarap, but I think it should be given to the Yang Brahman. Adun lah, not the member of parliament. Members of parliament that cover a bigger area. I think Adun, you know, be very good.
Yes, they do. Yes,
right.
I do.
Okay, next. next, I think the balance scorecard diagram, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Expected
measure lah,
result.
yeah. So then you set the target and see whether they meet the target. You know what I mean? So that should be simple enough. So to me, if you want to measure any success, nothing you're expecting to be done, it must be measured. If you don't get things measured, nothing will be done. Yeah, as simple as that. Thanks. Next. Next. I think that'll be the end of my presentation. I think next. I think next is circular economy. I just want to link the subject to circular economy, basically talking about this is second one to talking about blue economy. That means one's waste, another person's income, and then we must approach the whole problem as a system, complete ecosystem. Otherwise, in pieces, it won't work, right? And then we have to promote industrial ecology. That means whatever you produce, you take back, recycle them back to industry. Nothing gets wasted, right? And then renewable energy, of course, 40% of our waste containing of organic nature. There's a good source of renewable energy, for instance, and that really whatever we're talking today in support of the what we call it circular economy, right? Next. Next. Okay, in conclusion, if you really believe in this, we can expect the government expenditure of 4 billion a year can be saved. Then the whole thing will be transformed into waste to energy and materials recovery industries. My estimate about 2 billion per year, right? Okay, I think that's the end of my presentation. Yeah, easily, right? If you want to know the details, I can share with you. Not as rocket science estimate is. Okay, so I'm open for any comment or suggestion. I hope you give us full support, and maybe this is the time to make a change. You know, the long time here. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dato. Thank you very much for your thoughts and views, and it's been a very interesting discussion this afternoon. So I would just like to take up on Dr. Fauzi's clarifications. He wrote here, actually, the recycling rate in 2019 was 28.06%, and Malaysia had achieved more than 22% in 2018 at the rate of 24%. So there was some misreporting maybe in terms of the rate that we have achieved.
When I saw those figures, so I did WhatsApp him, Dr. Fauzi. So I think it was those rates is referring to the commercial, institutional, and industrial waste recycling. So I asked him, how about domestic? So then he responded to me, domestic, the one I was talking about, at 12%. So we still short of 8. Our target is 20%. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we still.
The 22% is for household domestic waste. Is it?
Yeah, domestic waste.
Or is it the whole of whatever waste we have is 22% by 2020?
Yeah. I think the main problem is the main problem is domestic waste, right? In Malaysia.
Largely.
Yeah, largely. The industries under DOE, they supervise them very well. The industry.
That is for the hazardous and toxic waste, right?
Even for other commercial things, or paper carton, things like that, you know, all those things are valuable there. So I think if you generate papers, normally they don't throw them out.
Right.
Okay, anyway, when he talks on the 14th July, he can elaborate the statistics.
Yeah. He will have more opportunities on elaborating the topic.
Yeah,
another clarification from the attendees, Encik Raslan Ahmad. He says that since January 1997, the solid waste management responsibility of 48 local authorities has been privatized to the concessions company. Currently, privatization of the waste management system in Malaysia has not reached full privatization. Problems faced by the consortium have led to an inefficient operation of the waste management system. This problem affects future management, planning of the waste management in Malaysia and frustrate the implementation of the privatization. So can Datuk comment on this? This is his observation. Thank you. Datuk?
Yeah, I lost you. Can you repeat the question? Can you repeat? I only heard about Raslan Ahmad. I think he must be Dr. Raslan Ahmad from MIT. Huh? Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He says that since January 1997, the solid management responsibilities of the 48 local authorities has been privatized to the consensus company. Currently, the privatization of waste management in Malaysia has not reached full privatization. Problems faced by the consortium have led to inefficient operation of waste management system. These problems affect the future management, planning of the waste management in Malaysia, and frustrate the implementation of privatization. Can you comment on this observation? Thank you.
Okay, when I say 4 billion a year, right? This is the government's total federal government expenditure, 4 billion. I think 2 billion goes to the three major concessionaires, right, in the country.
Yep.
For the central region, it goes to Alam Flora. For the southern region, it goes to they call it Southwest, huh? No, Southwest. Southwest Corporation. And then the northern is Idaman,
Yes.
right? Yes. And then some states ought not to be under these three concessionaires. They have their own companies, like Selangor, they have KDEB, things like that.
Yeah.
And the rest, that accounts for another 2 billion. So in total expenditure. So these people are just contractors. They're not really solving the problems. You just go around, collect the rubbish, clean up the street, things like that. But that doesn't solve the problem. The government will continue to spend this money. So this is not the model that I'm proposing, right? So you must start from from the top. You must start from the top. So that's my comment on this. So my proposition is to save the government expenditure 4 billion a year, and we transform this to industries. Yeah. And those people, contractors, they still will be there because they collect rubbish. They can still become logistic companies to collect the recyclables. So I don't see why they should be worried about. Yeah, it's still their business.
Okay. All right. It's still a business, right? Okay. The next question comes from Stephen Lee.
Next question.
One important point is the design of product to make reuse, sorting, and recycling easier. When a product has mixed material that makes it hard to sort, then it is likely to be disposed and not recycled. I think this is just the point that you made.
Yeah, that's what we say. Yeah, that's what the government introduces, sorting at source. You know what I mean? So the moment you pick them up, metal and other metals, you know what I mean? Plastic with other plastic, so then you lose the value of it. I think that's the reason why the first regulation government introduced under the law, sorting, but you want to encourage people to do sorting, but the end people do not see where it ends up, you know what I mean? But they all see them end up in the landfills. So then the whole thing lost purpose. So you must tackle the whole thing. Yeah, cannot be halfway, right?
All right.
This is a well-recognized problem from day one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, do we have any more questions? Any hands raised? Okay. Can we unmute the palm icon? No. So Dato, do you think your proposition to have this NP2O, where can we take it up now? Since the government has this, under the shared prosperity vision, we have this green economy. Can we park those kind of your proposition under that, since we have to have a vehicle to move your proposition then?
Yeah, before we have the vehicle, government must introduce the policy first. Without the policy, the rest has to be make it very clear. So far, the government policies now do not work so far. As I explained earlier, and what they have published in the 5-year Malaysia plans, you check. As far as I remember, since the 5th or 6th Malaysia plans, they keep using this principle, polluters pay principle. You know what I mean? And they keep harping on this polluters pay principle. That do not, it works for the industry, but did not work for the municipality or municipal waste. So that's why I've been proposing this. Yeah. So the first and foremost, the government to tackle our waste once for all, right? And introducing this in different consumer pay principle. Then once we have this policy in place, right? Then we have a rollout. The implementation scheme that I showed you, those have to be rolled out, and that could be led to under any ministry. Maybe it can come under Ministry for the Environment. Maybe
Yeah, since we have the new ministry.
Local government could come under Ministry of Local Government. It doesn't matter, which ministry, but most important policy must come first. Yeah, not responsibility for any ministry, but all ministries. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, the responsibility is lies in various different ministries. You see,
yeah,
talk about
they're all looking
here, it's there, it's everywhere.
Yeah, they're all looking at their own function, right? But nobody really interministerial, problems. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, yep. That's the problem actually. We are looking very sectorially of our function.
Do you have any question? If you don't have, I would like to share my how our government sometimes so.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Dato. There is no more questions. Okay. I don't receive any more questions. Yes, you can share.
Okay, when I look at my bibliography, I started this back in 1978, right?
Yes.
Recovery again disposal of waste for sustainability, which is quite close to what we're talking today. That was 78, right? And yes. Presented as a seminar organized by the Ministry of Science, Technology and Environment, right? So right. I never look at it. I was so busy in DOE. And then when I retired in 1995, 1999, a lot of people encouraged me, Dato, can you have a look at this concept? So I've started looking at this municipal waste problems in 1999, right? And I come to this far after a series of consultation with so many of my colleagues, and I was teaching at a young professor at UPM, so I had many good students, including Dr. Tang. Dr. Tang still very active on this subject.
Okay.
He said to me, Dato, for you to sell this idea, you have to speak to the Prime Minister. You know what I mean? I think the time Prime Minister is no longer Tuan Mahathir. Dr. Mahathir was Pak La, right? But to see Pak La almost impossible, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then I said, one day I met somebody and he said to me, how about you go and see your chief minister, maybe he can introduce you to the Prime Minister. I said, Ko Sukun, you know. He said, no, you from Malacca, you go and see Tan Sri Ali, Muhammad Ali Rastam, right?
Rastam. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean to see him. So he was nice to me. I mean, we knew each other, right? So I said, Baka, what can I do for you? I said, yeah, I want to try to see what Prime Minister, maybe you can help me to introduce me to him, you know. Yeah. I said, but waste. Huh? Waste? Oh, that's an MCA thing, you know. He said, that's MCA thing. You faham tak?
Yes.
That's because Ministry of Local Government Housing under MCA.
Okay.
You know, sorry, I cannot help you. So that's the end of my conversation with him, you know. So that's how things are.
Okay.
So everybody tapis. Nobody wants to take responsibility, you know. So you see, Minister of Local Government also, you know, how many times you can check the record with KSUs and DGs of Jabatan Pengurusan Solid Waste, all my friends, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even I wrote the former Chief Secretary to the government, Tan Sri apa tu, yang during this time lah, the one became the Petronas chairman, you know, siapa? Tan Sri, Tan Sri Saleh, something. The name is all the secretary generals and see whether you get any traction or not, you know. So nobody responded, you know. So I can name people that I've seen on this subject, you know. So in a way, I'm quite happy that you invited me for this, and NPC wanted to look at this. So this part of productivity, national productivity, you know, why we should waste this 4 billion ringgit taxpayers' money, right? Why can't we transform this to industry? So that's productivity, right? National productivity. We're only not solving the problem, but we generate new growth, new economic growth. So now, to move this subject, you have to see the current Prime Minister and see whether he would buy this. If you want to save the money, or if our Minister of Finance, hey, I don't have budget now to pay this concessionaires anymore, right?
Maybe this is a good time to propose.
Right?
Okay.
Now, this 4 billion is a lot of money. Huh?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
taxpayers' money. Yeah.
Taxpayers.
Yeah, I'm a university professor. My pay got cut up by 40%. You know what I mean? So, see, and then the school without the computers, and then the student have to go up to the tree, you know, to get the internet connection. You know, there's so many things, you know, we need to do to rather than wasting this 4 billion a year. Just to collect all rubbish which we think we can solve easily. Between you and I, you can solve it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we paying a house, we cukai pintu. You know cukai pintu?
Yes.
We paying very heavy. And partly the cukai pintu used to, you know, to pay these contractors. You
yes. Waste collection is one of.
Yes. Yeah, they don't solve the problem. Yeah, people think throwing rubbish everywhere.
Right.
Cause flash floods. So we're complaining why you have so many flash floods. Because all the drains clog up. You know, what do you expect?
With all the rubbish.
Yeah.
Okay. There is one more last question by Dato' Halimah Hassan. Agreed that financial model is important. Yes. Enviro-economic policy instrument must be introduced. Existing model with tipping fees will no longer work. How do you propose to kickstart your proposition on the EMP20? Dato' Halimah Hassan.
Yeah, okay, Halimah, I'm glad you follow this. I wish you were the DG of the solid waste management, you know.
we all retired.
We can continue to contribute. Maybe she should be the CEO of this non-profit, organization, right? Once this instrument in place.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yes,
Why not?
Yeah.
So the that tipping fees, that part of the money that the government has to spend 4 billion a year is to pay the contractors to bring the rubbish to the landfill. That's the tipping fees all about, right?
yes.
So once you recycle everything, you save the tipping fees. You know, to take the rubbish from Klang Valley to Bukit Taga, you know, how much the government paying? 70 ringgit per ton.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, in the first place, if you recycle everything, there's no need to take this rubbish to Bukit Taga anymore. Yeah. So, okay, that answers your question. Hello,
All
Halima.
right.
Oh, she can.
Yeah. She cannot hear, but I'm sure she's hearing you. So
Yeah.
I don't see any more questions, Dato'. So on that note,
Okay.
on behalf of NPCs and all the organizing committee of this webinar, we would like to thank you very much for taking your time and sharing your thoughts and views with us. I would also, before end the sessions, would like to thank attendees for being here with us this whole afternoon to share their thoughts and views together with us. So I'm promoting the next Sustainability Talk Series number 7, which is still on circular economy, challenges and the proposed initiative for a holistic implementation by our speaker yang berusaha Dr. Muhammad Fauzi bin Muhammad Taha. So please register. The organizing committee says you can register right now. So thank you very much again, Dato'. We hope we can, if there is opportunity, we can always share again our thought and views and how to move this proposition of yours. All right. Thank you very much, Dato'.
Thank you. Thanks to you and to MPC also. Thank you.
Right.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Thank you, Dato' and Dr. Fauzia.